Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. So, today we're going to be talking about vulnerability. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to read you the definition of vulnerability from the dictionary, real quick here. So, the definition is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually tell you or give you an idea of what actually people feel that vulnerability it means. Now, a lot of people actually feel very defensive about being vulnerable. They feel like they're if they show their feelings, they are weak. They're showing weakness. But that's not the case, and that's what we're going to be talking about today in this episode. And because I'm going to be talking about vulnerability, I have to be vulnerable with you guys. So I pretty much want to I want to practice what I preach, because that's actually something that's going to help me grow and stay accountable. Now, a little bit about me. In my like I mentioned before, I've been diagnosed with PTSD. And the reason why is because growing up with a single mom and an older brother, I was beat up by my mom, by my brother. I was always left alone, sometimes for days. I was constantly lied to by my mom and pretty much my whole family. My parents, like I said, they were divorced. Then I moved to a different country without knowing anybody, and pretty much my mom expected me to always help her. And I also saw my grandfather died right in front of me. My brother getting stabbed in front of me by my mom, and other things that have happened. And I'm gonna mention those probably throughout the episodes because I want to share my stories with you guys. So because of my diagnosis with PTSD, I had to go to therapy, because here's what happened as well. I got diagnosed right after my wife got sick. So I only had two choices: either deal with it or not deal with it and not be able to help Katie, my wife. So I literally decided to deal with it so I can become a better caregiver for Katie. That was the main thing. That's pretty much one of the things that pushed me or I would have never gone to therapy, pretty much, because I'm a very stubborn person, let's just say it. So in that situation, Katie's sick. She has her mental breakdown. She needs somebody to take care of her. So I decided to go to therapy. And what therapy taught me, as my wife will correct me later, it taught me that showing my feelings is okay. So what I'm telling you right now is that showing feelings is okay, because we are human. We are people that like to connect. We cannot connect with other people unless we show our feelings. That's when a true bond, true connection happens. Now, also, everybody needs someone to talk to. Like, before, it was hard for me to talk about my PTSD. Like, nobody really knew, only my wife and certain people that I had to tell. And other than that, nobody knew. But now I can be like, yeah, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I'm learning every day how to deal with it. And if I need somebody to talk to, somebody can actually be able to listen, because they can be like, oh, this dude has PTSD, let's see what he has to say, or maybe I can relate to him and then we can connect. That's pretty much what it is. And also, if you ask for help, it's not a show of weakness. It just shows that you do need help in certain situations, and by asking for help, that shows that you're being vulnerable, so people cannot also ask you for help, because they will be like, you know what, he's vulnerable enough to ask me for help. Now maybe I can ask him for help, you know. And also with vulnerability, it can help you heal. That's what it did to me. It helped me heal into becoming a better person, because before I was very angry because of the way that I grew up. I was extremely angry that nobody talked to me um, about my grandpa dying in front of me. Nobody asked me like, "Hey, are you okay?" or anything like that. So things like that will stay on you, and those are the things that you need to heal. It helped me heal all of that. Now I can move forward. I can actually look forward, and also another way that I can actually help you heal is that people can learn how to help you if you let down your guard or your vulnerability walls. So if you become more vulnerable, especially if you're a spoonie, like if you need somebody to help you, but you're kind of like the person, almost like my wife doesn't like to ask for help. Like it took her a long time for finally be able to become vulnerable and ask for help. If you're like that, then people won't be like, um mad at you when you talk about your illness or anything like that, because they will understand. They will be like, oh, she actually or he actually needs help. Because the thing is that when we are not vulnerable, but we want people to understand the condition that we're facing, they're not gonna understand because we're not showing them enough. Like they might be like, yeah, you have headaches, whatever, take a Tylenol. But if you become vulnerable, you can be like, oh, I have a very bad headache. Like, I can't really see. Like, you explain them a little bit more. You give them more of how you're feeling. They will be like, wow. They might understand it a little bit more. That's what happened to me. When my wife started having headaches and everything that has happened, I didn't really understand. I'm like, well, yeah, take a Tylenol. Like, that should help. Like, I get a headache, I take a Tylenol. But the day that I had a migraine, I was like, this is how my wife feels. I'm gonna cry. Like, that's how I feel. I'm like, oh my, she wasn't kidding. It's killing me. So that's pretty much what it is. And now I'm more understanding of that. Now, another thing that vulnerability does to you is that it opens up a whole new you. Like, before I couldn't do this at all. Like, it opens up a whole new you, allows your soul to be free pretty much, because you accept yourself. You start to accept yourself, and that's the most important thing. And also, like I mentioned, it allows others to help you. But let me go back to the part where you accept yourself. Once you accept yourself for who you are with all your vulnerabilities, you're able to stare naked at the mirror and say, like, I love that person with all your inadequacies, all your flaws, everything that you might not like about you right now, whatever you're facing, your illness, your trauma, if you don't like something about your body. Like, for example, in my case, I have a mole in my chin. I never liked it. People make fun of me growing up. Now I look at it and I'm like, that actually looks hot. Like, you allow yourself to love yourself. And that actually means that when you love yourself and you're alone, you can actually enjoy your time with yourself. And we're going to talk about this in another episode, but you're able to be alone with your thoughts, which is a lot to do. Well, it's a hard thing to do for a lot of people because we're always running from something. Now, another thing that the vulnerability does, is that it helps build intimacy in relationships. It increases self-worth, which we talked about. It aids innovation and motivation. It provokes compassion, which is something that I was talking about, kind of like with the headaches or something like that. Like, it provokes compassion. You're gonna understand people better. People will be able to understand you better. And if, for example, you have a condition that causes a lot of pain, and I'm talking about in my case, because my wife has a fibromyalgia, and has a lot of pain, and what happens is that obviously sometimes she can barely walk. Well, I never understood until the same thing happened to me. I don't know what I did to my hip, and I couldn't really walk for a while. So I was like, wow, I understand how my wife feels every day. So that's one of the things that I like about this. It also calls for accountability, and that's very important, because when you become vulnerable and you understand what you're doing wrong, like if you're snappy at people for asking you for something, you will be like, okay, that's wrong. I'm gonna be accountable. This is me talking about myself. I'm gonna be accountable. So if somebody asks me the same question, I'm not gonna snap. I'm just gonna answer in a better way. And if you feel like you're gonna snap at something that, for example, something that reminds you of your past, because there are triggers out there, you're still gonna deal with those. But with vulnerability, you're gonna be able to look back and say like, nope, that's a trigger. Don't react this way. That's one of the things that help me. And like I mentioned, vulnerability means less loneliness. So you're gonna be able to enjoy yourself when you're by yourself, and that's the best part about it, because you won't need anybody in your life to be with you. If they don't want to be with you, you will be able to be by yourself, enjoy yourself, be alone, like going places alone without having to have somebody with you. And that's the best part, because you're gonna be loving yourself and reflecting all that love, self-love, and people are gonna be like, you look so awesome, like how did you do that? People might actually reach in. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching this podcast, for listening to it, for being part of the community, and for sharing some of your stories already. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and you can listen to us on all the podcast platforms listed on the description of the episode. And remember, if you want to share your story, you can email it to me. You can post it on the podcast page, or on the group page, on the community page. And the reason why I ask for if you want to share your story is because that gives you a little bit of vulnerability in a place where you can be accepted, where people are facing the same thing as you. That way you don't feel alone. That's why I created the Facebook community, where people can support each other. So I leave you with that. I hope you guys are enjoying the show and the episodes. And after all, thank you. And I leave you with this: always take care of yourself.